ladies, all right? So believe me, it's a struggle for every woman as they get into marriage, raise a kid or raise children, and have a home to look after. It's a real struggle and it's a real challenge. So I want to qualify that this lesson is not to belittle the woman, but really to understand the differences, understand the weaknesses, and then that's where, as head of the home, as leaders in the home, we come into play with the wisdom God gave us. And believe me, the family is a very challenging place, and so trust this study will be a blessing to us. Right, we are familiar with this verse, husbands, love your wives, even as Christ also loved the church and gave himself for it. And so ought men to love their wives as their own bodies. He that loveth his wife loveth himself. Nevertheless, let every one of you in particular so love his wife even as himself, and the wife see that she reverence her husband. And this found in Ephesians 5, 25, 28, and 33. And so in one chapter in the book of Ephesians, God has to repeat 3 times. And when you want to tell your kids something important, you repeat. Okay, you say one time in case he didn't get it right, say another time. In case he missed it, say one more time, all right, to impress. So I can almost think of God looking at us men, and he said, it's not as simple as you think. All right, you got one important commandment and one important responsibility, and that is to love your wives. In fact, to love her as much as Christ loved and died for the church. That's the extent of the love. Well, just a humor about the bridge to Hawaii. They said a Harley Davidson biker, he was behaving so well. And so just a fictitious story. So God said to him and said, you've been so good, all right? I'm going to give you a request, whatever you want. And so the biker lives in the States, and he said, God, I would like to have a bridge extend all the way to Hawaii. And God said, don't you think that's a bit too much to ask? The amount of steel and concrete and the depth of the ocean, to fix that bridge. And then, so God said, ask something else, all right? And so this biker said, okay, in that case, I want to ask, I don't really understand about my wife. I want to understand about women. Why they're so emotional, they cry and so on and so forth. And then God said to the biker, you want 2 lanes or you want 4 lanes? All right, so the moral of that humor is it's easier to build a bridge to Hawaii, from, say, the East Coast or West Coast, and then to really understand a woman. Because other humor goes something like this. You have a book to understand men, and it's only so thin, all right? And then they have another book to understand ladies. It was this big, okay? And so the setting is to help us understand that a woman, unlike a man, is a little bit more complicated. Again, it's not to ridicule them. That is by design, all right? So very often in marriage, men get confused, all right? And they get, into a state of bitterness, anger, conflicts, because there's one factor that sometimes as men, we just don't understand how God designed a lady. Right, the greatest psychological differences between a man and woman is one largely governed by the intellect and the other is by the emotion. All right, so if you look at the man, 3/4 of it is intellect. Now that's how he functions. Whenever he faces a problem, he analyzes, he thinks through, he sort it out, and he's more objective. And a man's emotion is only a little bit, all right, 1/4. Okay? And but when the lady's makeup is different, the intellect is only like 1/4. All right, but the emotion is like 3/4. Right? She is a reservoir emotion. Now we're not talking that ladies are not intellectual. Some of them hold PhD. They can be intellectual. But when it comes to perceiving an issue, a problem, solving something, you find that dependence is more on their emotion rather than the intellect. And it is this very fact, this very difference between a man and a woman, it created so much misunderstanding and so much conflicts. Because when we face the issue, we think through, and then we feel. But the woman feel first, all right? Then she will think through. So God's commands to man is love your wife. Wife, submit yourself. I'm sorry, it's the other way around. Okay. So God's command to the woman, command to the man is to love your wife. But it's the second verse: husband, love your wives, even as Christ loved the church and gave himself for her. But God's command to the woman is to submit. Wives, submit yourself unto your own husband as unto the Lord. You realize that God did not give a uniform commandment to man and woman. It is not husband and wife love each other. That would be the easiest. But there is a nuance. And the nuance is that for the ladies, the key thing is she submit to the husband, because man is governed mostly by intellect. And that's why we say when you damage a man's self-esteem, you damage him. All right. So in submission and in reverence to the man, you kind of help the man to come out himself, to lead. And for a lady, the Bible did not say submit to your wives, but the Bible talks about loving your wife because her capacity to receive love is so great. And she's usually someone deprived of this love. Okay, because usually we deal with our wives on the intellectual level and not an emotional level. Now we know a jigsaw puzzle, two pieces, and they complement, all right? They fit in, you click, and you form at least a picture. But those two pieces are not the same. Okay, they don't look the same, right? There is a little thing for you to fit in and complement and click it, and then you form a complete picture. And so it is that God meant the woman to complete the man, and likewise for the man to complete the woman. And that's why they have this one flesh relationship. They are one. So they are not the same. And so keeping that in mind, in this study, she is not he. And the key thing that we're going to run through for this whole study is the word emotion. All right, so is the emotion due or man? Okay, so very often we say, why is it, so difficult to understand why she behaves like that, why she talks like that, why she demands it, demands that. It all boils down to one thing. It is called her emotional makeup, right? She is a reservoir of emotion, whereas us guy, we maybe call it a reservoir of thinking intellect. But to a lady, she is a reservoir of emotion. We're going to look at some of these things. We can't cover in depth, but we just have a kind of a broad base to understand. We're going to look at her need, her rationality, weakness, maternal instinct, entitlement, communication, wrath, perception, emotion, and self-esteem. And I want to emphasize this: we're not here to belittle the woman, but to understand. All right, to understand. Now, firstly, with regard to her need. Right now, this is Hannah, and the Bible says she was in bitterness of soul, and prayed unto the Lord and wept sore, and she vowed a vow and said, O Lord of hosts, if thou will indeed look on the affliction of thy handmaid, and remember me, and not forget thy handmaid, but will give unto thy handmaid a man-child, then I will give him unto the Lord all the days of his life, and there shall be no razor upon his head. Now notice the first part of the verse is that she was in bitterness of soul. All right, so when a couple is childless, and I've been through that stage for 7 years, the one that is most impacted is the wife, not the man. All right, so to a wife, she will be what we call bitterness of soul. When it comes to a need, she has a progressive need. And sometimes you may not realize this, some single ladies, they actually cry at home. Because they can't find a life partner. All right, the man may feel empty or just feel unfulfilled, but some ladies, they will actually weep over it. And after they are married, they look around, all the families have children. And when they can't have children, all right, notice there's another need that she has to fulfill. And when she can't, she'll be in bitterness of soul. I've said this on the pulpit many times when we were invited to the children's party by the members. I mean, it's a joyous time, but the moment we go back home, it's an empty home. Those 7 years without a kid. Believe me, it really bothers Janet a lot. And we see that. Now, coming back to Hannah's husband, Elkanah, it says, Then said Elkanah, her husband, to her, Hannah, why weepest thou? Why eatest thou not, and why is thy heart grieved? Am I not better to thee than 7 sons? Okay. So 2 people look at the same need, and the reaction is different. Right? The husband say, why are you crying? Am I not better to you than 10 sons? I look after you, I feed you, I give you all the good things in life. Why? So here we see that Elkanah cannot identify with Hannah. Okay, so sometimes we wonder, why is it some of the needs of our wives we cannot identify? Well, in the Bible, it shows us that men can't identify. Okay, to her, it's so real. To her, it affected her in her heart. It cuts right into her heart, and it pains her. But to the man, what's the big deal? If we don't have kid, we don't have kid. Life goes on. And but she feels differently. Remember in the Bible, there's another lady by the name of Rachel. Yeah, she said to Jacob, give me children or I die. And what was Jacob's response? Am I God? Are you crazy? I can't give you a baby. And so she went to the handmaid. And then the rest is history. You get the 12 sons of Jacob. Now her anxiety, and she had a sister called Mary who also sat at Jesus' feet and heard his word. But Martha was cumbered about much serving, and came to him and said, Lord, dost thou not care that my sister left me to serve alone? Bid her therefore that she help me. And Jesus answered and said unto her, Martha, Martha, thou art careful and troubled about many things. Now to be fair, there are 2 sisters, and one sat at Jesus' feet and heard Jesus, and the other one was busy serving. Well, Martha is more of an exception, and Mary is more of an exception. Martha is more of the rule. And so when your guests come, what will the wife do? Busy. You know what I mean? And she'll be concerned, the guest has enough. How would they think of my home? What would they think about the food? You know what I mean? So that's how her emotional nature functions. Her mind is all over the place. Frankly speaking, I empathize with a woman. Her anxiety, her thoughts, her cares, it's just like an octopus, the tentacles are everywhere. All right? And she can't help herself. Okay? And of course, we have this joke you can see a man, you can ask a man, sitting there almost looks stoned, and ask him, what are you thinking about? And the man, to be honest, himself was thinking about nothing. But a lady cannot identify a man can think about nothing. Every free moment, her mind is on the children, on the future, on the husband's health, on the kids' health, their schooling, their exams. So seriously, the more I understand about a woman's makeup and why she has this anxiety, and of course, it lead to what's called fear, is that is a makeup, all right, a very maternal makeup. And she wants to have a hand in every pie, whereas a man can compartmentalize his thinking and his worries. A woman's anxiety is spread out like an octopus. So you can talk to a lady, as she goes here, take a bus, whatever. She multitasks, right? She's doing something and the mind is on the kid. She's doing something and the mind is on the future or on the finance. And so, as I said, I really empathize with a woman. And sometimes when she's frustrated, she's anxious, she's fearful, instead of telling why you behave like that, right? By design, she tends to behave like that. Okay? Now, her rationality, and he went on to Hagar, and talking about Sarah went to Hagar, she conceived. And when she saw that she conceived, her mistress was despised in her eyes. And Sarai said to Abraham, my wrong be upon thee. I've given my handmaid into thy bosom. And when she saw that she was conceived, I was despised in the eyes. The Lord judged between me and thee. All right, so when a man looking at this passage just can't understand, what happened is this, the narrative is this. Sarah couldn't have children when she reached about almost 90 over years. So she said to Abraham, I can't have children. Why don't you go to my handmaid, and have a kid? And after Hagar got a kid called Ishmael, Hagar despised Sarah. So now Sarah looked at Abraham. It's your fault. You know what I mean? And not realizing that, or at least not, knowing, not saying not knowing, but not really identifying the fact that she was the one that initiated this whole relationship. All right? So in other words, she suggested it. Abraham allowed it. It turned out bad, and now it's Abraham's fault. Now in real life, I've dealt with this. Years ago, just a visitor of the church, and they just want to get married after 6 months. And out of courtesy, over her rationality. All right? So I'm not talking about our wives are not smart, they are. But there will be occasion where something happened and the pressure came upon them, and then they would say to, put it another way, it's hard to reason straight. All right? So you'll be blamed for many things. And not only that, sometimes you try to explain and so on. It makes things worse. Okay, things can be turned around, twisted around. You know what I mean? And sometimes you find the more you explain, the worse it becomes. Okay? And so her rationality is very much affected by her emotion. And so if you understand her, you empathize. If you don't understand her, you go by black and white dealing. I did the right thing, you did the wrong thing. Therefore, we have this Cold War. I'm not going to talk to you, until you say sorry and things like that. So we'll go through that route. But we understand that her rationality, because in the Bible we can see for ourselves. And Sarah asked Abraham, to go to the maid to conceive a child. After that, Sarah will blame Abraham if things did not turn out right. Now, a woman can be illogical and irrational because the emotions can overpower and overwhelmingly overpower her intellect to the point that she can become irrational. Under normal circumstances, she'll be okay. But one that's a major issue, all right, sometimes she can't handle her thinking because she feels more than she can think through rationally. Okay? So, this example I gave, why did you stop me? All well-intended replies can also be twisted to mean something negative or bad. It's a real-life example, like, trying to help a lady to come to church. But she has a whole emotional baggage. And just trying to be nice, being a pastor, explain. Everything good that I explain is twisted to mean bad. Okay? And even like a little financial help to her, she will turn it around and say, you're bribing me. You know what I mean? Things like that. You can't believe it. It's the furthest of your imagination, but that person will just turn it around. And it's because her emotional state of mind is so bad that you can't reason. All right, sometimes conversation can go down the rabbit hole because of her overpowering emotions. So sometimes it is difficult. All right, all of us probably have gone through that round. And sometimes we have a pause, a time off, let the emotion cool down, then try to reason. But in the heat of the emotion, you will discover it's hard to reason. Now, coming to a weakness, do you realize why the serpent went up to the woman, not to the man? Okay, because her emotional nature has also a weakness. All right, she tends to feel first, then think more. Okay, so the serpent did not go to Adam. And the serpent was more subtle than the beast of the field, which the Lord God had made. And he said to the woman, yea, had God said, ye shall not eat of every tree of the garden. Adam was there next to Eve when you read the whole passage. Because after she has eaten, she just gave to her husband. All right, so he was there to witness the whole thing. Now, there's a verse in 1 Timothy which some people are puzzled, but it goes like this. Let the woman learn in silence with all subjection, but I suffer not a woman to teach, not to usurp authority over the man, but to be in silence. For Adam was first formed, then Eve. And notice this part. And Adam was not deceived, but the woman being deceived was in the transgression. So when God looked at both Adam and Eve's sin, God said Eve was deceived, but Adam was not. Right? So most Bible scholars believe that when Adam took it, he knew he's going to die. Perhaps of his love for his wife. But when Eve took it, she thought she got a better deal than what God has to offer. All right? So scamming and cheating and all these things, and that's why shopping, all the advertisement, all appealing to the emotions. You know what I mean? So her emotion comes in with regard to her weakness. All right? So when we study all these things, the overarching thing that we can think of with regard to the woman's nature, why is it different from the man, is this thing called emotion. Now her maternal instinct, who can find a virtuous woman for a price is above rubies. The heart of the husband doth safely trust in her, so that he shall have no need of spoil. She looked well to the ways of her household, and eat not the bread of idleness. Her children arise, call her blessed, her husband also, and he praised her. And her maternal instinct. I saw an interesting little clip about a mother hen and, of course, a cock. And there was a little tin of rice. Yeah. And, of course, the cock would just keep eating. The mother hen would take it out and give it to the chick. You know what I mean? And then that's a maternal instinct. Another instance is it shows a deer and just ran away and let two cheetahs eat it. For the simple reason, the baby were there, and she wants to draw the attention away, and she doesn't struggle, just let the two cheetahs eat her, so that the fawns will survive. And so this is a maternal instinct, right? Her mind is a tornado of activities. Thinking, worrying, anxious, and so on. And one thing about man's mind, we can think of nothing. But a woman's mind cannot think of nothing. Okay, so sometimes when I look stoned, and Jenna asks me, what are you thinking about? And I got to pull something quickly. And I say, I was thinking about you. All right? Now, her entitlement, I put it in quote unquote. I'm not saying that every lady feels entitled, but it's due to her nature, and once again, that emotional nature, she tends to take it in. And that's why the Bible talks about husband, love your wives, even as Christ also loved the church and gave himself for her. Right, women function from a position of emotional deficit. It's like a leaking vessel that needs to be filled up daily. Okay? So it is said that a man once said to the wife at the marriage altar just after they are married, and the man said to the wife, listen carefully, wife, I'm going to tell you one time, all right, I love you, and I love you very much. And if I ever change my mind, I'll let you know again. Okay, so to a man, it's I tell you once, good enough. If I ever change my mind, I'll let you know. If I didn't change my mind, I won't tell you. But, the woman will be shocked, because they expect verbal expression of love. It's an ongoing thing, okay? A daily thing, a weekly thing, and they expect to hear that. Even my kids, when they say, love you, Dad, I'm never tired of hearing that word. You know what I mean? Whether Caleb say to me, Asher say to me, or Grant say to me, or Ben say to me, likewise I say to them. We never get tired of the word love you, okay? Yeah. So it's a daily I love you over and over again. I came across the article. I thought that was interesting. Take it in the right context, all right? Especially the young kids. So this guy said the highest rate of divorce is among lesbian, same-sex marriage. Okay, why? Because it's two women, their emotional nature, and their demands. You know what I mean? Now it's the emotional deficit. Right? You have to love me. They say sometimes marriages like two ticks looking for a dog. They discover two ticks and no dogs, okay? ticks that just want to draw blood. They thought they can draw from a dog, and they discovered that you can't. You're here to give, not to draw, in the family. So they say the highest rate of divorce is among lesbians. The second highest is heterosexual, a man and a woman. And the one that has the lowest rate of divorce, right, are the gay. Okay, because there is no woman. All right? Guys, take it in the right context, right? We never encourage gay marriage or lesbian marriage. But it does drive home a point. When two ladies are together, the demands on each other. In fact, I read one testimony. One of this lesbian lady, after she left, she committed suicide. And before that, she wrote a statement. She said, I never realized women can be so abusive, right, in her case. You know what I mean? Because the demands, all right, and the need to fulfill her need of love. And for this reason, many of the quarrels are just about only one question, right? Do you love me? That's all. There's only one question. You know what I mean? And so, yeah, sometimes we can't get rid of the fork. We don't realize that is the one thing that the woman is looking forward. Now, her communication, again, the emotion comes in. Right? Man communicates for facts, right? And woman communicates for emotional connection. Okay, so when we talk to our wives, it's all facts, right? The washing machine breakdown. Okay, I'll get the repairman. You know what I mean? Oh, you need some money? I'll go ATM and draw. You want me to buy some grocery? I'm going to get some grocery. That's our conversation. Okay, but when a woman talks and communicates, she's communicating with she's looking forward. It's like the vibes, all right? When you talk to me, how's your mannerism? You know what I mean? Like, am I important, or I'll answer your question just to get rid of you? You get what I'm trying to say? So even ladies, when they talk up there, they're communicating feelings. You know what I mean? Like, I got this issue, or let me help you, let me explain. You know what I'm saying? So this is something that we men are called emotional desert, all right? Okay, our capacity for emotion is very little. For emotion is very little. A lot of intellect, but very little. Okay, so like this man during a conference for this kind of talks, and he during the Q&A, he said, I don't understand my wife. She want a washing machine, I bought a washing machine. She want a microwave, I bought a microwave. She want a dishwasher, I bought. And she's still so angry with me. What's wrong with her? Okay, so it's not about things, it's not about facts, it's talking about, maybe you say, could you give me an example, Pastor? I'll say, back to those days when you first known her. Okay, what do? You talk. And you talk. You go out, you date her, have a meal. Are you following me? Yeah. So, yeah, it says some men are emotional desert in communication. Now, boys may fight with feet, but the girls can be brutal with words. Okay, so one thing ladies have is words. And their words can be used constructively, but when it's time to destroy men, there's a saying called hell knows no fury like the fury of a woman. Okay? And with regard to her wrath, yeah, ever wonder why Solomon penned down? This only quoted 2 verses. There are about 6 verses in the book of Proverbs. Continued dropping is in a very rainy day, and a contentious woman are lying. Right? It is better to do it in the corner of a housetop than with a brawling woman in the White House. How come Solomon penned about 6 verses? Well, he got 1,000 wives. Seriously, I feel sorry for him. And somebody says it's worse than that, not only 1,000 wives. You got 1,000 mother-in-laws, all right? And so, why the Bible never mentioned about a contentious man? Do you realize it's a contentious woman, a brawling woman? Okay, so it works this way, and we guys misread it, and we take it as no issue, right? Just like Hannah wanted a baby, how can I say what's the big deal? Okay, And then there is this nagging, all right? And so don't look at nagging as nagging, all right? Nagging is a cry for help, okay? So when the lady keep, our relationship is dying, you know what I mean? We're like two strangers living under the same roof, you know what I mean? I mean, she meant it. She's not trying to be critical. And sometimes all the argument, if you read carefully, is just basically a cry for help. All right, please help us. Now, so that's and of course, if this thing is not resolved, it goes in a downward spiral. And there's a common saying, "Hell has known no fury like the fury of a woman." And I want to say this is not easy. Okay, this lady said this: there are no tools to fix us. Right? You can't fix us. We can't even fix ourselves. Okay, when they go into emotional turmoil, are you following me? Sometimes they can't even fix themselves. They can't understand, and they say there are no tools to fix us. Now her perception, again, emotion comes in. Have you ever heard this saying? You go to your wife, what did you like, say for your birthday? And she will say, if I tell you, it's no fun. Okay, now I expect you to know what I like. Okay, and so it goes on and on. A woman expects a man to read her mind. Sometimes a man say, "Can I help you?" And the lady said, "No." I mean, this is an example. Here's a man with 2 luggages, right? And the lady come along, "Can I help you?" The man say, "No, no need, no, right?" And he carry it happily. And then a lady with 2 luggages, the man say, "Can I help you?" The lady say, "No thanks," all right? And then she carry it. Inside she's boiling. When I tell you no, what I mean is that you try harder, okay? And you give me a hand. You know what I mean? So young boys there, be careful. Sometimes when ladies tell you, "Go away," what they meant is, you better don't go away, come back. Okay? So, yeah. So like a man asks, "Are you okay?" The lady may give a curt reply, "Yes," but she doesn't mean it. Right? She's usually not okay, but expect you to ask or to know why she's not okay. Okay? So why she perceived like that, think like that, emotion again. Logically, a man is not a mind reader, but because of her emotion, she expects a man to be a mind reader. Okay, you know when I need a hand, you know when I need I love you, you know when I need a date out, you know what I mean? You should know all these things. All right? But he doesn't. Right, her emotions, positively, she can be sacrificial in times of need, like Ruth and Naomi in the Bible. And Ruth will just leave her country and, kind of give up her future and will go to Israel the way Naomi. And negatively, she can spiral down into anger and depression. So, is the aircon running or not running? Or is there too many people? I'm feeling very warm. Okay, anyway, let's go on. Right, negatively, she can spiral down into anger and depression. Yeah, so because of her rich emotion, yeah. And when she deals with an issue, unlike men, we deal intellectually. But she deals with emotionally. And when she deals with something emotionally, it's really fearful. It's really frightening. It's really threatening. You know what I mean? It's her whole being that she's affected. And of the 2 sexes, men and women, most women tend to go into depression more than the men, right? Because she really feels it. And you cannot tell her, say, objectively, it doesn't affect you, kind of detach yourself. She can't. She really feels it, okay? She really feels it. All right, so generally speaking, a woman tends to feel first and think, and just a generic statement. Of course, there are some ladies that are very objective. Now, all this thing I'm saying is just a generic. All right, her self-esteem. Right, it is said that men derive their self-esteem from their works and women from their men. Okay? So where do we get our self-esteem, men? It's from our work. Whenever you have 2 men coming together to talk for the first time, one of the subjects they will often talk about is, what do you do? You know what I mean? And we try to say, okay, I'm the manager of this company, I'm the executive of this, and we go on this way. It is said that when a man loses his job, right, he's hurt the most, and he can go into depression. Okay? But a woman, she doesn't get her self-esteem from the job. She gets it from her husband. So if her husband treat her badly, she's not important, ignore her, don't talk, don't listen, all these things, it really hurts, all right, her significance or self-esteem. So very often ladies will ask a question like, how do I look? Okay, I haven't heard a man ask a wife, say, how do I look? Man, we men don't care how we look, all right? Okay, but a lady will ask, how do I look? You know what I mean? My dress okay? Is it pretty? You know what I mean? And the other thing, they are very concerned about what will people think of me. Okay, so when they do something, they are afraid people would think badly or criticize. All right, for us men, we sometimes don't bother about it, but to a lady, it's very real, right, in their life. Now, so as we come to a conclusion, keep in mind, men's respond to a woman's emotional makeup. And the Bible says, husband, love your wives and be not bitter against them. Colossians chapter 3 and verse 19. Why the Bible say be not bitter against them? Okay, the answer is simply this. The lady cannot help herself. Okay, that's the way God designed her. A whole reservoir of emotion. She feels a lot. Stressed out, anxious, fearful. You know what I mean? And concerned and so on. And the other thing is in 1 Peter 3:7, likewise the husband dwell with them according to what? Knowledge. Giving honor unto the wife as unto the weaker vessel, as being heirs together of the grace of life, that your prayers be not hindered. So we are to dwell with our wives, not ignorantly, but according to knowledge. Now you got to study them like you study a course, a book. All right, so we dwell with them according to knowledge, and then giving honor to the wife as unto the weaker vessel. All right, I'm not sure how you look at your wife. Personally, I empathize with Janet, and partly because of her health, partly because of her past. She grew up in a home with 8 people, 1 room. You know, no private toilet. You want to go bathroom, you go to a public toilet. I mean, that's the kind of life she went through. And she struggled with asthma and a lung function that's only 50 plus. Most of us have a lung function of 100%. And I checked with the doctor what would be the critical percentage, and he said 25%. So as she ages, her lung function goes down. All right, so when I see all these things, of course, the biblical command to love, and know what she has gone through. I mean, sometimes instead of humanly, you are in a position you want to be critical. You can't hold back and say, look, I want to be kinder, be understand. And sometimes maybe you take a step backward. So a man's response to a woman's emotional makeup, it's not easy for them, and we need to realize that. Okay, instead of making so complicated about ladies, try to understand ladies are like flowers, right? You water the flower, they'll just talk, hold her hand on a weekly basis, go out for a date, okay, and things like that. Not that you can solve everything, but you'll solve many things. Okay, a woman cannot help herself with regards to her emotional nature. It's like working with a handicapped person. Okay, now here the belay. All right, when I look at a lady, she is handicapped. All right, and in church we have CN, and I often joke with him and say, CN, one day in heaven you'll run faster than me, okay? But when I look at CN, and if you're walking with him, I cannot rush him. He's on crutches. You know what I mean? And likewise, when we look at our wives, there's a certain handicap. But let me qualify, it's the same with men. Okay, our emotionally deprived nature. It's a handicap. Okay, so a lady can't understand why, before marriage you're so nice, after you talk so much, you communicate so. After marriage, you stop talking. You know what I mean? Stop paying attention. Okay, so usually we tell the ladies this, he's always like that. It's just during courtship. He wasn't like that because of romance. Once romance goes down, you see his usual self. He's like that. He doesn't talk much. Okay? And so in a sense, we are all handicaps. So when Jan look at me, she has to look at me as a handicap. I'm not expressive like a lady, say, oh, how are you, darling, and everything. I'm a handicap. Okay? So when you look at our wife, there's a certain handicap. So all these things that we have studied, the main thing to remember is the thing that governs all these things is the word emotion. Right? She has a huge emotional makeup. And emotions are feelings, and feelings sometimes doesn't stand up to reasoning. Okay? You can't reason with feelings. All right? So her need, rationality, witness, maternal instinct, entitlement, communication, wrath, perception, emotion, self-esteem. Yeah, so that's it. Right, so we'll conclude the lesson, why she is not he. And if you approach your wife thinking like she's like you, I mean, that's a disaster. Okay, so we learn to cut a little slack. We learn to mellow down. We learn to be accommodating. All right, realizing women's makeup is different. Anyway, this whole lesson is recorded, and we would end the live streaming now. Okay, just a few minutes of Q&A if you have anything. All right, if you have nothing, we go for our dinner. The problem is that we can't until the ladies finish their lesson. They're done.
Can we send me if you put my food separately? So your food is here. I don't know, protect it from you.